Welcome to another episode of Off the Hook, and I'm coming to you today from Mystic KOA near Mystic, Connecticut. So if you know Mystic Pizza from the 1980s, Julia Roberts breakout film, then you know exactly where I'm talking about. This place is gorgeous, and we've got a couple more days here. I'm really excited to go to the Mystic Seaport Museum today, which is an open air outdoor museum. It's absolutely stunning. We actually kayaked by it yesterday. They have, I think, something like 16 different types of boats and ships that you can actually walk onto. They've got all these different programs you can do. It looks really like an amazing opportunity. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Right now, I am working on another fedora. This one is going to be blue, obviously, and this one's going to be for me because I'm on this trip and I need that sun hat. So this one's going to be a personal item. I'm not selling this one, and I'm almost there. I have a few more rounds to go. But today, while I'm working on this, I wanted to chat with you about something that might be a little bit of an unpopular opinion. And that's this idea that you can't crochet at parties or events or where there are other people because it's rude. You know, people think that if you have your nose in the crochet, that you're not engaged with what's going on at the party. Now, there are a lot of different reasons that somebody might want to crochet at a party. For some, there is a little bit of that. This is my safe place. This is my protection. This will help keep me from having to engage if I'm an introvert or a shy person. For others, it's just they have such a deep love of their craft that they want to do it all the time. And they, even at a party, they feel like if I don't have a hook in my hands, I'm going to go crazy. So there are multiple reasons that somebody might want to crochet while they're at an event or a party where there are other people. Now, the unpopular or the common opinion is that it's rude. If you're crocheting, that means you're ignoring everything that's around you. My opinion is it really depends on a few factors. One, what's your reason? Are you really trying to avoid those conversations? Are you trying to avoid engaging with the people who are around you for some reason? Are you hiding out in a place where people are going to see you crocheting and they're just going to avoid you and you're totally okay with that? Then this might not be the best thing for you to do because you really are kind of, you're supposed to be there to socialize to some extent. And while it is very difficult for a lot of people to socialize, hiding behind your crochet is not a good way to overcome that. It's a good way to continue with that tradition of not socializing. So I would certainly encourage you to. But on the other hand, if you're that kind of individual who, when you crochet, you can absolutely have an ongoing conversation with somebody. You can participate in an activity. Oh, I had a nasty cold for um, several days on the trip, and I'm still kind of getting over a little bit of the cough and the nasally stuff, but it's definitely getting better. Anyway, where was I? That squirrel. Remember last week's episode? We had the squirrel that ran behind us, had no idea it was there. Well, maybe there's another one there, but certainly I do tend to have my squirrel moments. So where were we? If you can crochet and have a conversation, then I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Taking your crochet to an event, you're not avoiding anything. You can sit right in the middle of all of the activity and have your crochet, keep it right close to you. It gives you something to do with your hands. If you are somebody who is a smoker or a drinker or a binge eater at parties and you're trying to avoid those kind of bad habits, then crochet might be a great way to help you avoid those things while you're at a party, because your hands are staying busy, so you're not putting food in your mouth, you're not, smoking a cigarette, you're not inclined to pick up that drink every 2 seconds and have a drink. So it might be a great alternative for those kind of things. Some of the things that you want to watch out for: don't pick a pattern that you have to do a lot of counting. So I just did a YouTube short about, our responses. I'll own it, mine, when I am counting stitches and somebody's trying to talk to me, and that look on your face like, oh my God, why are you doing this to me? So don't pick something that you have to count stitches. Do something that is mindless. My mother-in-law calls these TV watching projects. So you can really focus on something else besides the crochet, but you're still in that activity of crocheting. This pattern, for example, once I get far enough into it, it is absolutely a mindless project for me. I know exactly what I need to do, where I need to do it. I don't need to count stitches at that point. So it is a perfect kind of project that I can work on while I am at an event or at a party, and can still stay engaged with what's going on around me. Don't do anything that's going to take up a lot of space. Don't bring a quilt or a blanket that you have to spread over 3 cushions of a couch in order to work on it. Bring something that's small enough to fit in your lap, and it stays quite, maybe 1 skein of yarn, so you're not having to constantly be changing skeins or colors or anything like that. It's a simple project. This is supposed to be something to keep your hands busy and maybe even keep your mind from spiraling a little bit if you tend to be anxious, but it doesn't have to be anything, or it shouldn't be anything that's complicated or complex. Now, you're likely to get some comments or some questions, and one of the most common is, oh, you knit. You know what? We all know that it's crochet, and even I sometimes slip up and call it knit, only because the word knit is an easier word to say than crochet. And for that reason, it just rolls off the tongue a little bit easier than crochet. But and knitting is much more ingrained in our culture. People know what knitting is, and crochet is a little bit still not as well known as knit. So don't get upset if somebody, here I am telling you how to be who you want to be, but my suggestion would be not to get too upset if somebody calls it knit. There's an opportunity there to educate them if they really don't know, and if they do and they just slipped up, just have fun with it. Make it a game, be silly, say, oh yeah, you know what, no, I don't knit, I do crochet though. And that's what this is. It's okay. It's okay to explain it to somebody. It's okay not to explain it to somebody. But the one thing that I think that I would avoid is being snarky about it, because education is something that we value in the school system and then we forget about in real life. And what I mean by that is, I think that there are a lot of stereotypes around people, around cultures, around ideas, uh, whatever it is, there are stereotypes around that. And when the stereotypes permeate, and people become afraid to ask questions because the receiving party of that question feels like, well, you should already know the answer to that, so why do I have to educate you? Well, because maybe they don't know the answer to that. And it's okay to either say, no, that's not correct, and leave it at that if you're not the kind of person that enjoys educating somebody or wants to educate somebody. But it's also okay to take a moment to explain the way that it really is. I remember when I was a kid, the very first time I saw somebody in a wheelchair, it was a child. So it wasn't like an elderly person that you kind of expect almost to be in a wheelchair. This was a child. It was at a wedding. And I remember leaning over to my mother and saying, why are they in a wheelchair? They're not old. And she didn't know the answer, but she encouraged me to walk over and ask the child and the child's parents what the situation was. And I honestly don't remember if it was cerebral palsy or something like that. I don't remember what the situation was. But the parents and the child were more than happy to share with me and help me learn what it was, so that when I saw other children in a similar situation, I wasn't afraid of them. I wasn't, staring at them trying to figure out something. And it went on that I started dancing with this little kid, and he was in his wheelchair and I was, on my feet, of course. Um, and it was just a neat experience overall, because I had that opportunity to ask questions and learn. And if I now, as adult, there are certain situations where I am honestly a little bit afraid to ask those questions and say, well, why do you do this, or why are you like that? And I don't know the answer, but I've become a little afraid to ask those kind of questions, because I don't want the backlash of somebody saying, well, that's none of your business, or it's, you should already know the answer to that, or I can't believe that you're asking me that. And maybe this just comes from the perspective that I'm an information seeker. My sister-in-law, on this trip, because I love to look up facts and information, she started to call me Nikipedia, for Wikipedia, and my name being Nicole, Nikipedia. So my new nickname is Nikipedia, because whenever she wants to know something, she just says, hey, Nikipedia, can you look this up for me? And she knows that I'm more than happy to do it, and I have an opportunity to learn something in the meantime. So I'm an avid learner, and maybe that's where a lot of this comes from. But getting back to my point, make it okay that somebody's going to ask you about what you're doing. Give them an opportunity to ask questions and share with them. Even if you don't know all the answers, that's okay. Just share with them what you do know, and share and have that, take that opportunity to be social and have a conversation starter. Have a reason to start that conversation, that somebody's going to walk up to you, and make it inviting and open, so that you have a reason for people to approach you. And then that alleviates a lot of that pressure of just having to try and figure out what to talk about, because there's something to talk about right there in your lap. So that's kind of the thing is, don't be afraid to have those conversations. Don't be afraid to have people ask you questions. Don't be afraid to share those answers and educate them on what it is that you know. And this could be a great opportunity for connection rather than a reason to isolate yourself during an event. So make sure you're focusing on bringing simple projects that fit on your lap and being open to those questions. And this can be a really good experience. But I want to know, what do you think? Have you ever crocheted at a party or a gathering where there's a lot of people and you're supposed to be socializing, or in the theater where maybe you're watching a movie or a show? What is some of the most unusual places that you have crocheted, and what has been the responses for those things? Share with me in the comments below. If you have not already, I would love it if you subscribe and like this video, because that is the YouTube currency. That's how I get paid. Proverbially, this is not a monetized channel, so I don't actually get money at this point. But YouTube does show these videos to more people, the more people who subscribe and the more people who like. So that's a great way to pay me and show me a little bit of appreciation for the work that I put into them and the fun that I have making them for you. Thanks so much. We'll talk next week.